Okay, so how well do you actually understand how to factor polynomials? Well, if you're pretty strong at factoring, this should be a very easy problem. Matter of fact, what we have here is a quadratic trinomial, x squared plus 8x plus 15, and we want to factor this. Now, this particular trinomial can be factored, and what we have here is a multiple choice question. Matter of fact, let's take a look at our answers. So A is x plus 5 times x minus 3. B is x minus 5 times x plus 8. And C is x plus 5 times x plus 3. All right, so this is the question. Now, a lot of people have a tough time in factoring. Matter of fact, in algebra, factoring very well may be the most important skills or skill that you need. And if you don't know how to factor, you are really not going to be able to learn or pass an algebra course. It is that important. So if you're having a tough time with factoring, I'm going to show you a fantastic little procedure where you can get these problems right every single time. But if you have the right answer, put that into the comment section. I'll share the correct answer in just 1 second. Then, of course, we're going to walk through exactly how to factor this lovely polynomial. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help learning math, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. All right, so here we have x squared plus 8x plus 15. We can describe this as a polynomial, or more precisely, a quadratic trinomial, all right, because we are dealing with a polynomial where the highest power is 2, so this is quadratic, and there's 3 terms, so it's a trinomial. But let's go ahead and take a look at the answer. The correct answer here is C, which of course is x plus 5 times x plus 3. If you have x plus 3 times x plus 5, that's fine as well because order doesn't make a difference. But if you got this right, you definitely get a happy face, an A plus, a 100%, and a certificate of excellence because you appear to be a certified professional expert in factoring basic quadratic trinomials. Now, factoring is a huge topic in algebra, and you have to really be a certified professional expert if you expect to pass your algebra class or math class that involves algebra. But this particular question here, because it's multiple choice, you can actually figure out even if you didn't know how to factor this thing. Now, some of you might be saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I was totally lost. What should I do if I encounter a problem like this on my math test? Well, if it's a multiple choice exam, or matter of fact, any math test, okay, that you don't know the answer to, yes, indeed, you should guess. And some of you might say, all right, that makes me feel better. Yes, unless you're going to be penalized for the wrong answer, that can be the case on some exams like the SAT or ACT, so you need to know the rules. But in general, you're not going to be penalized for the wrong answer. So yes, don't feel bad about guessing. When you take a math exam, really the objective is to get as many points as possible. So let's suppose you're like, you know what, I like B. Oh, this looks pretty good to me. Well, take a guess. That's a great guess. Unfortunately, that's wrong. But there's a way that we could actually figure out the right answer to this problem because it's multiple choice without actually knowing how to factor. But that would assume that you know how to multiply polynomials, right? Because factoring is basically what we're doing here. Let's just use numbers here, for example. If I have the number 18 and I want to factor this, right? So what we're trying to do is break this up in 2 or more numbers. Now, let's say 6 and 3 these here are factors, okay, of 18 because 6 times 3 get the product of 6 and 3. The product of the factors gets us back to the number. So these here are factors, all right, or potential factors of this trinomial. So if we multiply these factors, we should get back the correct factors, we would get back to the polynomial. So you could always do that. Matter of fact, this is an absolute great way to check your answers. Now, we do know that the correct answer here is C. So assuming you know how to multiply binomials, you could see that this is the correct answer. So You could use the FOIL method here, for example, which is first, outer, inner, last. That's a little technique to multiply two binomials. So let's go ahead and multiply our answer here just to kind of see that it is correct. So x times x, that's our first term, is x squared. X times 3, all right, that is going to be our outer terms. That's going to be 3x. Our inner terms, there's 5 and x, so that's 5x. And then our last terms is 5 and 3, that's 15. And when we add this up, we're going to get x squared plus 8x plus 15, which indeed is what we have, right? So these two binomials, when we multiply them together, equal the answer, all right? So you can always check your work in factoring by multiplying your factors to see if, in fact, they are correct, all right? So this is one of the reasons why you should never, ever get your factoring questions wrong. And I do want to emphasize again how important factoring is. If you don't know how to factor, you are literally not going to be able to really understand algebra. Okay, so if you are a math student and you need to get a good grade, you're not going to be able to, really kind of pass your algebra course or your math course that involves algebra without knowing how to factor, right? So you got to get this down. Let's do a quick review of the things that you learn about factoring in algebra. And I'm not going to get into all the details here, but this is how you want to approach learning factoring. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to make sure you understand how to factor out the greatest common factor, the GCF. So for example, if you have 2x plus 10, this can be factored. We can factor out the greatest common factor. In this case, it's 2, so that would be 2 times x plus 5. All right, so you start there. You get really good at factoring out the GCF, and then you move on typically with most math courses to taking on trinomials, all right? So we're dealing with polynomial factorization. That's kind of the topic here. So this is an example of a trinomial. So this is a subset of factoring. And we can break this up into two scenarios. We have a case 1 and case 2 scenario. I'll talk about this here in a second. But again, a lot involved, right? So you got the GCF, that's its own thing. And then you got to learn how to factor trinomials, which is two different situations. And then we have two other scenarios. The next one is like I would call special factoring rules, right? Special factoring rules. I can't really write too well. Let me write this special, all right? I think that's right. All right, so special factoring rules. So we're talking about things like a squared minus b squared. This is a difference of two squares. That's equal to a plus b times a minus b. And there's other special factoring rules. And then we have another thing called group factoring, which is a technique that kind of encompasses everything here and the greatest common factor. So this is really a technique that you use for more challenging factoring situations. So a lot to learn in factoring, and you're going to need all these skills all through algebra, algebra 1, college algebra. It doesn't make a difference. Factoring is going to stick with you throughout your entire math career. Okay, so what we're focusing on in this particular problem is working with quadratic trinomials, and where this problem is actually what I would call a case 1. So I'm going to get to this in just 1 second, but for those of you that need to learn factoring, I'm going to give you some specific suggestions on how you can master all of this. But let's go ahead and continue on. So here is our problem. Okay, so we have this quadratic trinomial. Now, there's different techniques you can learn, primarily two techniques, and really just one technique that is mostly generally taught in most math courses. So here we have x squared plus 8x plus 15. Now we want to factor this thing. But the first thing that we want to realize is that just because we have a problem doesn't mean that we can factor this. So for example, if I gave you the number 18, I said, hey, factor 18. You're like, no problem, Mr. YouTube Math Man. That's 9 and 2 or 6 and 3. Here's some factors of 18. That's perfect. How about 17? Okay, well, 17, you're like, well, the only factors there is 1 and 17. So when you have a situation where the only factor is 1 in the number, this type of number is prime. Okay, so prime numbers are where the only factors is 1 in the number. Here, when we can have other factors other than just 1, this is not a prime situation. But trinomials or polynomials can be what we call prime. In other words, we can't factor them, and the only factor is just 1. So if I really wanted to be sneaky about this problem, I could have given you 3 options here, A, B, C, and then I could have put D here as an option in this multiple choice question as prime. And you're going to see that on some exams, and that means that this thing cannot be factored. So there's no guarantee that you can factor anything in algebra, but you have to try. Now, in a trinomial situation where we just have an x squared with no, the only number in front of the x squared or y squared is 1. So the way this is going to look, if it can be factored, is going to be 2 binomials. So we're going to have an x here and x here. So whatever this is, it gets broken up into its 2 factors like that, x and x. So if this was y, this would be y and y. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, so that's the easy part. The more challenging part is we need to take this number right here. And remember, we have to have this in highest to lowest power. This is called standard form. So our x term is in the middle. So now we think about factors of 15. So what are factors of 15? Well, 3 and 5 are factors of 15, but so is 115. So we need some sort of combination of 15, the factors of 15, to fill in the rest of these binomials. So maybe it's like plus 1 and plus 15. Okay, so you wouldn't use like 15 and 3. It's the factors that when you multiply them together, you get back to 15. So you have to kind of, basically check these factors, and the primary method that most students learn is kind of like what they call guess and check. So you put in various factors here, and you just kind of multiply these until you get the right pair of factors that get us back to the problem. Now, I'm not really getting into this in too much detail, because if you know how to do this, well, then obviously, you're looking at this like, yes, Mr. Teacher Math Man, I already got this down. And this is the primary method that you learn when it comes to factoring trinomials, whether they have it's a case 1 or case 2. But a lot of people get confused with this technique. Okay, how do I know that? Because I've been doing this for decades and decades, and this is where people get upset. They're like, that's me, Mr. YouTube Math Man. I really struggle with factoring. I always, I just guess and maybe I get it right. Well, I'm going to give you a specific procedure here that's going to make dealing with these things much, much easier. All right, so that's just an overview of this kind of guess and check method. I'm not going to get into this, but I will tell you how you can learn it from me and really master all these things that we talked about in factoring. So let's go ahead and talk about case 1 and case 2. All right, so this problem, I'm describing this as a case 1. A case 1 quadratic trinomial is where we have a 1 as a leading coefficient, okay? Where in terms of, in contrast to a case 2, that is a coefficient, the number in front of the x squared or y squared, other than a 1. Like a 3x squared, this is a case 2. If it's a 1x squared, and typically we don't write the 1, it's just by itself. So it's like x squared plus 8x plus 15, something like that. There is a 1 there, so this is a case 1. These are super easy, all right? So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in 1 second. These here are more challenging, okay? But this procedure that I'm going to show you, there's kind of a version for it as well for case 2. But this kind of guess and check method works for both case 1 and case 2. But again, it's more challenging, and it gets very interesting for these type of trinomials right here. Okay, so again, a lot of people struggle with factoring. If that's you, I will give you some specific recommendations, but let's just master this case 1 procedure right here. It is very easy. All right, so let's go and get into that. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at this, which of course is my invitation for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, even if you are new to my channel, well, first of all, thank you for dropping by. If you are currently a subscriber, thank you so much. It means a lot to me, okay? It really is the fuel that YouTube needs to really say, all right, I'm going to push out more of this guy's videos out to people that might be looking for help in mathematics. And my thing is to try to teach math in a clear and understandable way, such that, basically all people could be successful in math, because that's what I believe. I know that for a fact, that pretty much everybody can be successful in math. And what stops people from being successful in math is typically themselves, right? It's the way they think. That's the number one thing that holds people back, is they have these kind of the self-negative labels like I'm not good in math, right? I'm not smart enough. Math is not my thing. No, no. Listen, you are capable of being successful in math, but it does take work and time, and most importantly, it takes great math instruction and clear and easy to understand math instruction that's comprehensive and detailed. That's what I like to believe that I'm an expert in because I've been doing this for years and years and years. So if you need help, okay, in mathematics, two things. One, I have a ton of content on my YouTube channel. The second thing is I have very, very comprehensive math courses. You can find links to those in the description of this video. And for the things that we're talking about here, factoring, check out like my Algebra 1 course or Algebra 2 course, all right? You will learn all the techniques that I'm talking about here. But let's get back to this problem. And by the way, if you subscribe, make sure to hit that notification button as well so you can get my latest videos. All right, so case one, right? So we're talking about a quadratic trinomial where the leading coefficient, the number in front of the x squared, y squared, whatever it may be, is a 1. All right, so here is the procedure. Now, a lot of you, again, are used to doing this guess and check method. If you have that down, that's perfectly fine. So you're like, okay, I got an x here, I got an x here, and I'm thinking, okay, 15, I'm going to break that up in terms of 5 and 3, mess around with this. That's, this is an easy problem, by the way. So, yes, yeah, that method, the guess and check method is good. And I'm not trying to put that method down, but it's really, pretty easy to use on easy problems. But when you have more challenging problems, this technique, even if you know that other method, could come in very handy. All right, so here's how it works. So you're going to take this 1 and you're going to multiply it by 15. So 1 times 15 is what? That's 15. Now, the reason why I'm saying do this is because this, the way we start off, this method is the same thing for case 2. So for those of you that want to learn about case 2, you can check out my algebra courses. Matter of fact, I think I taught this on some of my YouTube videos as well. But the procedure starts off the same way. So we're going to start with this 1. Remember, this is in standard form, highest to lowest power. So it's 1 times 15 is 15. Okay, so remember now, in general, no matter what technique that you're using, when we're factoring, if we have an x squared here, we're going to have an x and an x and an x, right? We're going to break this up no matter what. That's always part of the solution every single time. The hard part for most people is to figure out what do we put in here. Is it like a plus 1 and a plus 15, or is it plus 3 and a minus 50? Who knows, right? So we're trying to figure out what goes in the rest of these binomials, and I'm going to show you right now exactly how to determine the rest of the answer here. Okay, so 1 times 15 is 15. Now what we're going to do, and I'm showing you the long way here, you don't have to write everything out here when you get good at this technique, because some of you might be saying, hey, this is a lot of work, Mr. YouTube Math Man. Well, I'm just showing you the complete procedure. As you practice this, you won't have to do all of this kind of work. You'll be able to identify it much quicker. But here's what you do. So we're going to list out all the factors of 15. Okay, now these are always going to come in pairs. So 1 times 15 is 15. So is negative 1 times negative 15. That is a positive 15. 3 times 5 is positive 15. Negative 3 times negative 5, positive 15. Now, what are we doing? Well, we want to pay special attention to the sum. Okay, so in other words, if we add up the factors here, 1 and 15 is a positive 16, negative 1 and negative 15, negative 16, 3 and 5, positive 8, and then negative 3, negative 5, negative 8. Now, we're just looking at this. You don't have to do all this math, but we're looking for what? Well, I'm going to show you, okay? You're paying special attention for this number right here, okay? This 8x, we're looking at this coefficient, so we're on the lookout for an 8, okay? You're like, all right, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I'm looking for this 8. That's what you said, I'm looking for the 8, but you're looking for the 8 over here, okay? And not at the factors, the sum of the factors. So we got 16, negative 16. Oh, look, I got a positive 8, and this is positive 8. So you're saying, hey, I found the 8, Mr. YouTube Math Man. Well, that's perfect. This is the answer, okay? This is what we need to actually factor this thing. So 3 and 5 is the rest of the solution. So here is our two binomials. Remember, we have x and x. And so we have a positive 3. We just put that into one of the binomials. So we'll put that as plus 3. And then we have a positive 5. We'll put that over here. And there you are done. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now, when you get good at this procedure, you'll just be able to recognize, okay, 15 factors of 15 that add up to 8 is 8. Now, the logic here is very similar to the other method, but believe me, some students need kind of a procedure to follow. And this really helps out with case two scenarios like this right here. There's a version of this technique where you can go 3 times 5. And yes, it does require work, but it's like running a little computer program, a procedure where if you run the procedure, you'll get the answer every single time. And some of you out there that struggle with factoring need these kind of procedures, okay? Because the world of factoring is a big world, and it is a critical world. You gotta be really, really good at factoring. And if you're great at factoring, you're pretty much going to be fantastic at algebra. They kind of go hand in hand because pretty much most algebra topics involve, problems involve factoring. I would say like at least 75% off the top of my head. But if you need help with factoring, okay, please, first of all, get that help. And hopefully this little video helps you out. But again, check out like my Algebra 1 course or my Algebra 2 course if you're at that level. And also, I have additional videos on my YouTube channel. Okay, so with all that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your math adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.